Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this week, got to go out this weekend and shoot my grandma's old Yashica MG-1 that she gave me over Christmas. And I had a lot of firsts this weekend. First time shooting this camera, so I wasn't entirely sure if it was going to work. In fact, there were a few times I was pretty sure that it wasn't working. But spoiler alert, it ended up working actually, so there is a video to watch here. It's also my first time shooting Fomapan 100 in any format whatsoever. Definitely the first time shooting it in 35mm, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed with that as well. The MG1 has been kind of impressive too. It's a little rangefinder camera. It has a 45mm f2.8 lens on it. It's fixed to the camera, it's not changeable. It goes from f2.8 to f16, and it has a little focusing ring back here on the back. I found that it's pretty easy to focus. The rangefinder patch in it is a little bit dull on my copy. I think I probably should take it apart and clean it out and get it looking a little better, and that would probably do wonders for it. But I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet, seeing as it's still new and this was the first roll I ran through it. But anyways, let's get on to the shooting footage, and we'll come back here and talk about the MG1 and the Fomapan 100 a little bit more after. So as far as the MG-1 is concerned, my grandma took pretty good care of this one. The leather binding and covering on the camera body is still in pretty good shape, or leatherette or whatever it is they were using on these things back then. Like I said, the rangefinder patch is a little dull, but it probably just needs to be cleaned out and checked up. The lens was still ultra sharp, which I'm pretty surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect out of this lens, but I think it almost holds up with the Canonette that I used to have. Obviously it's a lot slower at f2.8 other than the Canonette's 1.7 lens, but still pretty happy with the results I'm getting out of this camera. I'm also enjoying the way this camera looks. Has that classic rangefinder look, of course, kind of just a brick with a lens coming out of the front of it. But it does look pretty cool and vintage, and I like that. I like that it's somewhat compact, but it's not super small. I can still get a pretty good handhold on it. All my fingers fit, which is sometimes more than I can say for my A7. The fit and finish of it seems pretty average. The shutter button has a long travel, and then you get a light whether or not your exposure is going to be slow or overexposed. And then you shoot it, and there's not much field there, and it's kind of squeaky coming back up, and it does its thing. The shutter release feels a little weird as well. It comes out and goes almost entirely around to the front before it stops and then goes back. And I had a few issues with mine, so I think there may be some things going on with my camera in particular, where I had two frames that were touching each other. They weren't overlapped, but they were touching on the film strip. So I think there may be something I need to look at on the film advance in this camera as well. The leaf shutter is built into the lens. It's pretty darn quiet. It seems to be accurate in mine. All of the exposures came out a lot better than I was expecting, so that was a pleasant surprise as well. I didn't know what to think. On the Canonette, it was nice being a shutter priority mode. I could set the shutter speed, and then in the rangefinder it would tell me what aperture the camera was going to select for me. In this camera, you set the aperture, and then it picks a shutter speed, and you have no idea what it was. The only time you have any indication is if the slow light comes on, either in the rangefinder or on top, means it's going to be a 1/30th of a second or slower. Other than that, your guess is as good as mine on what shutter speed it's choosing. While that may be a negative to some, it is kind of a positive in that you can just take this thing out and shoot it like a point and shoot. That gives you a little bit of control, and it's kind of freeing because you're not sitting there worrying about your shots and everything. I kind of got to the point where I was just trying to find good compositions and taking photos and hoping something would come out when I developed the film after I got home. So having said all that about the MG-1, it's a pretty simple camera. There's not a ton of features or things to talk about on it. Like I said, I'm pretty impressed and happy with it. One thing that is interesting, the battery on this is a discontinued mercury battery that's kind of long, and there's no direct replacement for it. Online you can find adapters to make other batteries work in here that will regulate the voltage and have everything coming out correct in your metering. What I did, I found a CR123 battery, stuck it in there, and then taped two LR44s together, then stuck those in there. And then for the ISO 100 film I was shooting, I just set the meter to 50 ISO here on the bottom of the lens, and that seemed to work pretty well for me. Usually if you have over voltage in an old camera meter, it'll overexpose your photos, so I just pulled it down a stop lower than what the film's rated for, and that seems to be working so far, so we'll shoot some more film through this and see if it holds out. So as far as the Fomapan 100 goes, I'm super impressed with it too. I was really happy to see the fine gradations between blacks and lights. Everything between the darks and the lights looked really nice and smooth. The grain's a lot finer than I was expecting, and the contrast to this film was really lovely. I'm super happy with it. I have another roll that I'm going to shoot, and I can't wait to get out and shoot some more of that stuff. So stay tuned, guys. I have another video coming up probably next week or the week after. It's going to be from the same weekend of shooting, but different camera and different film stock. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.